Yeah, hi Donna. Thank you for inviting me on to share my bit of experience in life. And what I'll do, I'll talk about my experience from a very early age. Um, my earliest recognition childhood, I think my strongest memory would have been around 8 or 9, and I was born in East London, moved down to Essex, and at the time I had 3 younger brothers and my mum and my dad. And then I found that we moved into a pub at the age of 9, and then at the age of 10, I found, there was lots of alcohol was around, lots of it. And I found that, living in a pub, and my dad was drinking a lot, and, and for whatever reason, I noticed they were arguing quite a lot, And I remember coming home from school one day, and my mum, said, we're going, we're leaving. And it was like, I was devastated. My dad was my world, I love my mum dearly, but my dad was, I'm the oldest of 4 boys at the time. And, he was like God to me, my dad. I worshipped him, obsessed with him. He took me to West Ham, to Wembley, to watch, games. And all of a sudden, he's not in my life, and I'll never see him again after that day, And so them short 10 years, and probably the strongest between ages 7 and 10, I remember him so clearly. Eventually, I'm now living with my mum, and, later on down the line, she got a new boyfriend, and I found that at primary school, I love primary school, I love football. 10-year-old little boy, I play football, play for a football team. And I always played for West Ham. I doubt if I was ever good enough, but, when you're 10, it doesn't matter, does it? You can play for who you want, really, in theory. So anyway, secondary school come along, year 7, okay. Year 8, I start hanging about with boys. Cannabis come on the scene, So at first, I wasn't that interested, but then I found, this group of boys are smoking it. I tried it, Within a month, I'm smoking it regular. Stopped going football practice, started bunking off from school, got chucked out eventually, went to another school, got chucked out, another school, got chucked out in 12 months now. In a short space, 12 months. From when I first started cannabis, I've now been chucked out of 3 schools on my football team. So what it was, my mum tried to get me in a few schools in our local area, because my behaviour was so bad that I ended up in a pupil referral unit, which then they called it intermediate treatment. So I got to this place, and it was a mixture of white boys, black boys, some Asian boys, a few girls. And then there weren't many pros. So there was like boys from East London, Essex, put into this one place in Essex. And to be honest with you, it was like a bomb going off. 80% of us were cannabis smokers out of 50. I started hanging about these boys after school. Next thing I know, I got chucked out of there. So now, I'm just coming to the end of 14. I'm now experimenting with other drugs. So now I'm taking things like LSD, amphetamines, and lots of alcohol. When I mean lots of alcohol, I get paralytic every day. Really strong lagers, 10 and super kestrel. So now I'm picking up convictions because I need money for this. Drugs and alcohol not free. So we started to commit crime like shoplifting and, whatever. And now I'm getting arrested. So now I come out till 16, I didn't realise it. I'm totally dependent on alcohol every day. I'm committing a lot of crime. I've been to prison 4 times. I've got 20 convictions at the age of 16. I should be sitting in school in year 11 or 12 studying, to go to college or university. I'm not. I'm now on the street with a big knife in my pocket. So at the time, I'm getting a little bit older here, and I got to the age of sort of 20, and I'm sort of a petty career criminal. I'm drinking in pubs. I've got something nice to live. I had a girlfriend at the time. She didn't want me to behave like that, but she was working hard, and I'm out committing crime, and she kept saying to me, "Stop," and then one night, somehow, heroin was brought out, and one of my gang members went to prison. He come out and he tried heroin whilst being in prison. And one night I'm at his flat, and we couldn't get any cocaine or cannabis. It was quite late. We'd been out all day, and we come back, and he said, the guy upstairs, has got heroin for sale. And I looked at him. I said, "You've got to be joking. We see heroin addicts when I was a kid, and no disrespect to them, I was one. I was looking at them. They were scumbags. They were filthy dirty. They used needles. They didn't wash." I tried it. Curiosity, saying going back to when I tried the weed. And this drug took me to a dark place, because within 12 months, I completely changed. I lost 5 stone. I stopped brushing my teeth. My girlfriend, didn't see her again. Sort of got back with a little bits, but never, and now them guys I used to judge in the street and look down my nose at, I'm one of them. I'm very unwell now. So after a year of smoking heroin, I get into crack. I start injecting it. You're not meant to inject crack. You can, but you're not meant to. And I started getting ulcers in my legs. So my legs now are broken down. They're bleeding heavily. So I don't go to the hospital. I dress in my baby's nappies to soak up the blood. So as time's going on now, I'm committing more crimes. So my life now is either a hospital bed because I've been stabbed, or I've overdosed. I'm either in a prison because I've committed crime, or I'm waking up in a crack den, lonely by myself, in that short space of time. This is my life, but this is my life now for 15 years. This is my life now from the age of 21 to 36. I've got to live like this. So over that period of time now, my health and my legs are getting really bad. My family didn't see me. I'm costing society a fortune. I'm having to rob or steal from shops to fund my drug habit, £2,000 worth of stuff a day. All your big department stores around the West End, anywhere really. And I was nicking designer label stuff, you know, and it got to the point where I got in debt with drug dealers. You know, at first they seem to be your friends, and then you get in debt and you can't pay them. And one stabbed me, you know, one night, nearly killed me. As time went on, I remember one night I got some drugs and I went to this drug den, I injected myself and I overdosed. I died. You know, my heart stopped. Lucky enough, thank God, because like normally I rush off and have a quick fix by myself somewhere in a public toilet and then go to a drug den. There was a drug addict there and he had a phone and called an ambulance. And I woke up in the back of an ambulance. They saved my life. You know, defib my heart. I got to the hospital. And I remember being in his hospital gown, and I sat an hour later and I felt better. They put all the adrenaline in me, and I went to the doctor. I want to go. And he said, you can't. He said, I'll give you a blood test. He said, I've got some bad news. You've got 3 days to live. Well, maybe 2. He said, you've got blood poisoning, septicemia, pneumonia, and my hemoglobin, my blood cells have dropped so low, my immune system was so poor, I would have died from the infection or pneumonia before the drugs will kill me. And he said, if you don't treat you, if you don't let us treat you for 2 days, you'll die. You're going to die. And I left, got dressed, left, wanted more drugs. And at that point, the police were after me. You know, I've broke the law about 5,000 times apparently, you know, even though I work with the police now. So I've got a choice now. You know, I'm standing outside this hospital and I know that if I go off the news, I'm going to die in 2 days. Or I walk into my local police station, and we didn't like each other at the time. And I've done some horrific stuff to myself in there, and I thought, right, this is it. And I remember a little bit of hope and courage. And I remember I hobbled to this police station with all blood in my shoe, my legs, you know, wrapped in nappies, you know, rotten, skinny, dying, basically. I'm dying. I've got 2 days to live. And I walked into the reception there in the police station. I broke down and cried. I said, please help me. 3 words. And they did their job. They arrested me, took me back to the hospital, and the doctors kept me for 4 days. It was touch and go at times, you know. I was in a high dependency unit, yeah. And they saved my life. In the meantime, the police are watching me these 4 days. You know, I'm a prisoner. I'm a convicted criminal. I've got to go to court. So they take me to court on day 5 in a wheelchair in Southend, Essex. And the judge, you know, sent me to prison quite a few times. He went 6 months in prison. So I got to Chelmsford Prison in Essex, and they said, you can't come into prison. Your legs are too bad. We can't cut them off. So they sent me to Broomfield Hospital in Chelmsford to have my legs cut off. So they handcuffed me to the bed. They were just about to cut my legs off. And another doctor came and he said, you know, I'm going to try and put maggots in your legs for 5 days before we cut them off to eat all the infection. I don't know if you know that maggot therapy they use in hospitals. The pictures on my website. And I couldn't believe it. They pulled all these maggots on my legs. They wrapped it in a bandage, and I'm handcuffed to the guards, and they're watching me. 3 guards, 24 hours a day, but they change shifts every 8 hours. So I had 9 guards a day watching me. That's costing the prison a lot of money. You know, getting the prisoners overtime, getting them to back and forth to the prison from the hospital. And the maggots saved my legs. And it was horrendous. Chewing all the flesh, the bandage is moving constantly. Then I had to be rushed down to theatre. And in all, I was 12 weeks I was handcuffed as a prisoner. They'd done 20 operations. I went down to theatre 20 times in 12 weeks because my body kept rejecting the skin. When you have a skin graft, your body has to obviously accept it. My body kept rejecting it. So I had another one. You know, and I was in a lot of pain. And then after 12 weeks, I took the handcuffs off and left. And they said, you're free. And it was like, what? I said, yeah, you're not a prisoner. We've got to let you go. And I said, I've got nowhere to go. And they walked off. The nurse came into my room and said, you've got to leave now. We need the bed for someone else. And I was like, I've got nowhere to go. I had a carry bag with my clothes in. That was it. No one come to visit me. Nobody. Because see, my mum, not only did I put her through hell mentally, emotionally, you know, I stole from her. She wasn't bothered about that. She was at the time. But it was the mental abuse after of her son killing himself with addiction and alcoholism, you know. So that was it. What do I do? I've got nowhere to go. I've got no home. I had literally nothing. No home, no family. no mobile phone, no job, no bank account, nothing. The clothes on my back, that was me in the world. You know, how it always had been for 15 years before that. So where do I go? But lucky enough, one of my friends many years ago that I used with went to a rehab in Somerset. So I desperately, you know, got hold of him and said, you know, can I come down to Somerset? Is there a rehab? And he said, yeah, you can come down. There's a rehab, there's a bed for you, but not for 5 days. I said, I ain't got 5 days. If I leave that hospital, when am I going to end up in a crack den? I'll use it again, I'll relapse, I won't end up there. So he said, look, I can't do more than that. He said, you're lucky to get that. So I've got the nurse in, I called her in, the sister, into my room, and I said, this is the situation. And she said, okay, you can stay for 5 days. And basically that nurse saved my life. She saved my life, that nurse. You know, I'm very grateful to NHS. So then 5 days, I'm sitting there and I'm holding on for dear life, and I end up in this rehab in Somerset, and it was great. I think I cried for a week when I got there. I was so relieved that I'd come from this horrific past. You know, but I still went out of hospital then, you see. My legs still started to break down. So I was in rehab hospital. And this went on for a year. This went on for another year in that hospital, you know, but I slowly started to recover. And I started working a program and I got better, you know, and you know, I celebrate 14 years clean and sober on the 29th of December, you know. I'm still not out of the woods though. You know, I'm on medication the rest of my life. I've got 12 blood clots in my legs. I've got open wounds in my legs still. I have to dress them every day. Ulcers from continuing injecting. I've got needles stuck in my arm. They snapped off. But, you know, I'm healthy as I can be. You know, I'm really grateful for all the help I've had. You know, the police did their job, even though I was a criminal. You know, they was only arresting me because that was their job. You know, the doctors saved my life. The nurses treated me well. So, yeah, I'm very grateful to, you know, all these professional bodies that, you know, that sort of like abuse them really, and then they come along and save my life. So today I work alongside the police, doctors, nurses. It's great. I go to conference, you know, I love what I do. So yeah, you know, you know, my mum forgive me. She forgive me. I have a little girl. I have a daughter. I'll quickly tell you the story, and then we can wrap this up a little bit. I was with a girl very young years ago. Her name was Joanne. We started dating at 16, and you know, we was together at 18. I moved in with her and her mum because I fell out with my mum, and then obviously, eventually, you know, she see me getting involved with stuff. I got her pregnant, and then, you know, I sort of like, you know, I got off the drugs, moved back in with her, and when I got her pregnant, when she was 5 months pregnant, I went out one day and relapsed, and never see her again. 3 months later, I'm in prison in London. I got arrested for shoplifting. I'm lying on my bed in a prison cell, the door open, the prison guard walked in and gave me a letter. So I read it, and it's from Joanne, my girlfriend. She found out I was in prison. She found out all the prison in London to see who I was. In the letter, she went, I want to come and see you. I'm still pregnant. 8.5 months she was. So 2 days later, she travelled from Essex to London on a really hot day in August 1996 to come and visit me, bless her. 8.5 months pregnant, on a train, by the way. And the reason she come to see me, because she'd heard from the prison that she found out they said I had a week left to serve. So I'd have been out before the birth. I remember she walked into the visit hall in a prison. She looked beautiful, all dressed in white. You know, she had long blonde curly hair. She looked beautiful. You know, and I'll never forget it. She nearly fainted when she come and see me. She was exhausted, and 1 hour visit. That's all I had. And she begged me. You know, she come there to beg me. I should be begging her. She said, when you get out of prison, will you move in my flat? Promise. Will you be able to give birth? I promise. And you'll never touch drugs again. Never, never. You know, I got clean in jail. She walks off after the visit. I go back to my cellmate. I said, I can't wait to get out of prison next week. You know, I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to get a job. And what I do? 7 days later, I leave the prison to go and meet her. Go into an off licence to get 1 can of beer. 2 hours later, I'm in a crack den, injecting heroin in my groin and crack. Never turned up. You know, that's the power of alcoholism and addiction. I had all the intentions in the world. I walk out that door, 1 can of beer. Bang, I've got a needle in my groin 2 hours later. 4 hours later, I'm out committing crime. I've been out of prison 4 hours. I'm paralytic drunk. I'm out of my head on crack and heroin. I'm breaking the law again. You know. So anyway, my daughter's born. Her mum brings her up on by herself for years. And then eventually I find out when my daughter's 5, my ex-girlfriend Joanne does the right thing, meets a decent man, marries him. My daughter now calls him dad today. Fair play to him. You know, fair play to the guy. So I moved back to Essex 10 years ago. And I started going around schools doing talks about my past. So I Googled my daughter, looked her up, found out she had a stepdad's second name, which is okay. So I got a bit nosy, looked her up on Facebook, found her profile, you know, knew what she looked like. So I'm in a coffee shop one day, a few months later, she comes walking in. And I look and I thought, oh my God. And she sat opposite me in the Starbucks. And then all of a sudden, her stepdad came and sat next to her. And my past life smashed me in the face. You know, it should be me sitting there. I'm her dad. I got and walked out. And, you know, 3 days later, via my website, I got a booking from a school called Sacred Heart in Essex. And they said, can you speak to our year 10 girls, all girls school? And I found out it was actually my daughter's school. And my daughter was year 10. Her head teacher didn't realise I was her dad. Different second names. So I thought, I better let Joanne know, Mike's girlfriend. You know, I've got to go and speak to my daughter. Joanne might want me to speak to her. So I got in touch with her via Facebook and got a phone number, phoned her up. And she said, look, the day you're going to Rhea school, she's at another school down the road called Cooper's doing work experience. Otherwise, I'd have considered letting say hello to her. I thought, how's my luck? You know, that day goes to my daughter's school. She's at another school on that day. I turn up a few weeks later. I do the workshop. I leave the school at lunchtime. I walk out the school gate. I'm walking down the road. And 100 metres in front of me, coming towards me, my little girl, Rhea. She must come back for lunch. I ain't scared of kids. Honestly, don't know. I speak to tens of thousands of kids every year, but this little girl coming towards me is my daughter. And she has no idea who I am. And my heart's in my mouth. It's just me and her in the street. I walk up, put my hand out, and I said, Rhea. And she looked at me. She went, who are you? And I said, I'm your dad, Paul. And it went really quiet for about a second. And she went, oh, hello. And she gave me a hug. And we stood there for 5 minutes chatting. And it was, I can't remember what we spoke about. I was so nervous. And she walked back into school. And if I'm honest with you, in my 14 years of being clean, you know, apart from the day I got clean, that was the best day of my life. Without a doubt. You know, I waited 14 years to do it, 15 years to do it nearly. So I rushed home, wrote her a letter. In the letter, I explained about my past. And it was a men's letter. So I'm really sorry what I did to you and your mum. Please forgive me. I was severely unwell with alcoholism addiction. I'm not in a gang anymore. You know, I've sorted my life out. And I'd love to see you again. So on this big letter, it took me hours. I put at the bottom, I put PS and I put love dad. And I put my phone number and address and a big kiss, you know, and I said, look, text me or write me a letter, we're going to do something. So I posted it. So 3-4 days later, I got an obsession with the postman. There's no letter. I'm checking my phone every day. There's no text. A week went by, nothing. So after about 10 days, I thought, oh, no, I sent a friend request on Facebook. No reply. So 2 weeks went by eventually, and I thought, you know what? She's seen my friend request. She must have read my letter by now. It's been 2 weeks, and she's probably decided that she didn't want to see me. And I had to accept that stuff, you know. You know, she's got a dad now. Why should she want to see me? You know, I have to accept that stuff. And I thought, life goes on, really. It has to go on, doesn't it? But anyway, the following day, on day 15, my phone rang. And I picked it up, and it was Joanne, Mike's girlfriend. She went, you all right, Paul? I said, yeah, what's wrong? She went, don't worry, nothing's wrong. And she goes, we just got back from holiday last night. We've been away for 2 weeks. Rhea's just read your letter. Would you like to take her out next week for something to eat? And I was like, did I just hear her right? And a week later, I picked my daughter up and took her for a cheeky Nando's. And now I see her all the time, you know. And she's in my life. She's on my social media, my Twitter, my Instagram. You know, I get great big Father's Day cards. It's you know, getting clean and sober and getting away from that lifestyle. So many lovely things have happened to me. You know, I never thought in 1 million years, I'll be getting emails and picked up from hotels by the police and taken to a school to talk to kids. I didn't like the police. I hated school. Now the police pick me up and take me to schools. So, you know, it's such a, you look and you think, you know, that's okay though, you know, because this ain't about me or the police. This is about our children, a future generation, which we'll talk about in a minute, you know. So yeah, look, you know, even though, you know, I'm grateful for everything. I live decent today. I pay my taxes. I pay all my bills. I don't commit crime. I don't harm anyone. You know, and most importantly, you know, one day at a time, I stay clean and sober, and hopefully, people can benefit from my past today. You know, my daughter has a dad back in her life. My mum no longer has sleepless nights, worrying that her son's going to die of a drug overdose. Yeah, and yeah, you know, life, and I'm extremely grateful. And I look forward to this year. You know, once COVID's gone and getting back to doing what I'm doing, as I'll explain in a minute.